This is the Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey. We are taking a look at some of the top running back trade targets for the Dallas Cowboys, knowing they don't want to spend big money on anyone outside the organization, but they do have 2 roster spots available, one of which very well could be a running back. They have bodies right now: Ezekiel Elliott, Rico Dowdle, Deuce Vaughn, Royce Freeman, Malik Davis, fullback/running back hybrid Hunter Lipke, Snoop Connor, UDFA Nate Pete. The Cowboys have the best running back 3 core in football. It's the RB1, RB2 slots that are like, that's a little bit dicey. Maybe even feel good enough about having a decent enough rotation for RB2. RB1, that I don't love, or at least offering the speed that you don't have at the running back spot. The big play threat ability is sorely lacking right now in this running back room. So do you want the Cowboys to trade for a running back? 10-ish different names we'll get to here on today's show. If you want to go trade for one, type me in the comments section. The biggest name, maybe, up first, that is Dameon Pierce. Now, I have said this before, and I will emphasize it again, in part because Nick Caserio says they don't want to trade him. I don't think Pierce gets dealt. They did sign Joe Mixon. They also used Devin Singletary a lot last year. Traded for Joe Mixon, then extended him. Pierce is, I think, the pretty clear-cut RB2 on this roster. Dare Ogunbowale is RB3-4. Jawar Jordan was a later day 3 pick. Joe Mixon goes down, and you trade Pierce. It is the worst running back room in football, even worse than what Dallas has. That's why I don't think a trade happens. Oh, by the way, Dameon Pierce was honestly bad last year. And again, I often point to, well, how'd the other guy play? If a player doesn't have a great season, maybe it is the supporting cast, whatever. Dameon Pierce averaged less than 3 yards a carry this past season. Devin Singletary was at 4.2. Now, I think there's reason to expect a bounce back here, but we have to acknowledge the bad season. Have to do it. The name I am more intrigued by, of the bigger names, who I think could be gettable, is Khalil Herbert. And he doesn't bring you a lot on third downs. But the Cowboys have guys who can do that. Dowdle, Elliott, especially as a pass protector. Deuce Vaughn can do that stuff for you. As an early down runner, Khalil Herbert has averaged 4.9 yards per carry over the course of his career. If the Bears were to ride with DeAndre Swift as their new RB1, Roschon Johnson on third downs, and let Travis Homer be the special teams RB3 guy, that makes sense. So I would absolutely call the Chicago Bears about Khalil Herbert. He almost 5 yards per carry over the course of his career. It was 4.6 this past year. He's battled some injuries as well. This, I think, is one of the more appealing names out there because of the efficiency that he offers. If you're not going to give me big plays, especially on third downs as a pass catcher, I need efficiency. He does offer that to me in a pretty impactful way. So will the Cowboys trade for a running back? Y for yes, N for no. It's the pinned comment on today's show. If that ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. What you've seen on screen so far is the money that player would be owed by the Cowboys if they traded for him. $1 million-ish for the first 2 guys. I have seen some misinformation out there. The Panthers have already paid a $2 million roster bonus, I believe, to Miles Sanders. So it's only in air quotes, 4.22 this upcoming season. The Panthers took Jonathan Brooks in round 2. Chuba Hubbard drastically outplayed Miles Sanders. Mike Boone, Raheem Blackshear can handle the backup RB3 role if needed. And you would be banking on a return to form. And you would be banking that the 2023 campaign for Miles Sanders was just an outlier year. Because in Philadelphia, he was a 5 yard per carry back. Averaged that in his career. That number fell off to 3.3. He was terrible. But you've got 4 straight years before that of good play. And that makes it a little bit better of a bet that he could return to form. But I don't want to pay him $4.22 million. It's a lot of money to pay for an average 3.3 yards per carry. So I would not trade for Miles Sanders. But I would monitor if he gets cut out after June 1st, when the Panthers could actually save a little bit of money. The Atlanta Falcons and Tyler Allgeier, next up here, also owed table scraps like Dameon Pierce is. Obviously, Bijan Robinson is RB1. The question is, does the combination of Avery Williams, Jace McClellan, with the new coaching staff enough for Atlanta to move off of Allgeier? He was awesome in year one, 1,000-yard rusher, almost 5 yards per carry. Did regress as really the entire offense, never seemingly lived up to its potential, which may have been a quarterback thing, although, again, Bijan averaged 4.6 yards per carry in a weird rotation split there. By the way, you're not getting Bijan Robinson. Simply not going to happen. But much like we mentioned for the Texans, they don't have much depth beyond Allgeier. Today's show is made possible by our buddies over at Prize Picks. It's daily fantasy made easy. You pick more, you pick less. That is it. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Link will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. I always advise people to do the flex play. That way, if you get one wrong, you actually still win. You can get 2 out of 3 picks, 3 out of 4 picks, whatever, and still come out on top. Here are my NFL season-long prize picks. More than on the passing yards for Dak and Mahomes, on Lamb touchdowns, and Micah sacks. All 4 of those numbers are less than what the player did last year. As long as they're healthy, they should get there. One more time, the link is prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. The Dolphins have lots of depth, so how about Jeff Wilson, who's due $1.55 million this year? I would love to get Raheem Mostert. The Dolphins just extended him, so I doubt he's going to be available. Devon Achane and Jalen Wright, who I love, were not going to be available, or they just drafted them. Chris Brooks is too much of a battering ram runner for me to really want that adjustment, I think, from an investment standpoint. I'm not the biggest Savon Ahmed guy. So what if you brought Jeff Wilson home? He's from North Texas, by the way, after all. And especially if you finally run more outside zone stuff, Wilson's a fit. He's been a pretty steady 4.5-ish yard per carry guy. So it's not the sexiest name on there, but he's been an 800-yard runner in years past. Good for the Niners and the Dolphins. Only got flipped to Miami because they had a Christian McCaffrey. Worth considering there. The name that I am most intrigued by, not because he's the most proven, but because I liked him coming out of Pitt in last year's draft, because of the investments made by the Jets roster, and because of the sub 4.4 speed he brings at 216 pounds, Israel Abanikanda, the Jets running back. Now, you're not going to get Breece Hall. The Jets have drafted both Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis this past year. If they would be willing to move on from Abanikanda, who barely played in 2023, if I could get him from one of my comp 6th-round picks or later, I'm all for it. I liked him a lot coming out of Pitt. I don't think a 23-touch sample size in a team that just wasn't very good for a young player is anything you say, that's enough to really change our information there. I had Abanikanda as a top 90 player for me in last year's class in the backfield. He is so different speed-wise than what you have. The production does not intrigue anybody, nor should it. But the traits I am very intrigued by. Name a running back who you want to trade for. Ironically enough, if they do trade for Abanikanda or Herbert, I would have the Cowboys' top 3 backs in my Dynasty League. I've got Zeke and Rico Dowdle still, which would be kind of funny. But name running back you guys want to trade for. Michael Carter over in Arizona is next up here. Again, the Cardinals have depth because they took Trey Benson. They're not going to move on from from James Conner. I think Amari DeMercado's kind of the RB3, or one of Carter, DJ Dallas, Tony Jones could impress enough there to justify something. Carter's been very inconsistent in his time in the NFL. He does profile as a solid third down back. He got more involved. I mean, he had 8 carries for 38 yards with the Jets, and then had 30 for 187 overall, 22 for 149 with Arizona last year. Jumped from a career 4-yard per carry in New York to 6.8 in Arizona. They actually ran the ball super well last year, by the way. Their OC is pretty solid there. Third down back, if he gets cut, it makes sense to me for Carter. 3.12 is more than I would like to pay. I think the Cowboys like to pay as well. Elijah Mitchell, the Niners running back, is next up here. Does offer the sub 4.4 speed, the big play threat. I would like to add to this roster. Christian McCaffrey's not going anywhere. They sniped me on Isaac Rindo in the 5th round. I would have loved that pick for Dallas. He went off earlier, of course. Jordan Mason has impressed a little bit. They have Cody Schrader, who's a good scheme fit for them, by the way. Mitchell was a bit banged up last year, hence the numbers being a little bit lower than what it had been in his previous time with the 49ers. Strangely enough, as I think about it, also a player on my dynasty team. Still is a 4.7 yard per carry runner and was less than 40 yards away in 2021 from a 1,000-yard campaign as a first-year player. Maybe you can tap back into that. If the Cowboys make a trade, we will have a video for you, whether it's the phone, at home, graphics, whatever. We've got you guys covered. Justice Hill is next up. The Ravens also got a back in front of Dallas. They took Rasheen Ali out of Marshall. $2.5 million. I would assume they're not going to cut Derrick Henry. Shocker. And they're not going to cut Keaton Mitchell, who they like. Maybe Hill could be available if Rasheen Ali flashes. And Hill, again, in more of a rotation piece, smaller situation, plenty of third down usage, has flashed some big plays, has flashed efficiency. 4.6 yards per carry over the course of his career. Offers you some pass-catching value as well. Now, I don't think this Cowboys team is going to trade a premium asset. What is the earliest draft pick you trade a running back for? Maybe you're shopping one of those comp 5th-round picks around. What do you think it is? Sound off in the comments section right now. Pierre Strong, the Browns running back, who I did like when he came out of South Dakota State a couple seasons ago, hasn't had a ton of opportunities. The Browns have depth in the backfield. Nick Chubb probably won't be ready to go for week 1. So it's Jerome Ford, Deonta Foreman. Nyheim Hines probably makes that roster as a return man. So I'd call about another, I believe, sub 4.4 guy, Pierre Strong. Didn't play a ton in New England. When he did, it was still 10. It was very deceptive. This is the most deceptive 10 yards I've ever seen in my entire life. He did have 10 carries for 100 yards in New England. One of them was 44. But still, that's big plays, right? 63 for 291 in Cleveland, 4.6. That was a full yard per carry more than Kareem Hunt. Hasn't had many chances. Might be more of a add in if he gets cut at roster cutdown time. But again, we're 10 backs deep here, right?